Hey there, welcome back into the College Basketball Bracket Science YouTube channel and podcast network. Today we're talking about the top 50 non-conference games to look out for this upcoming season. College basketball coaches have done a fantastic job of scheduling high quality non-conference games, not just for the resume, but for college basketball fans like you all to enjoy. They're trying to grow the sport, and this has become an awesome tradition. So we have 50 non-conference games we're going to talk about. We also have some mid-season tournaments. So the top 50 non-conference games do not include the mid-season tournament. So Players Era Festival obviously is going to have some really high-quality matchups. Even CBS Sports Classic, as you can see on this, on this graphic for the thumbnail. One of the games is the CBS Sports Classic. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then even the Champions Classic, which always, starts college basketball off with a bang early in the season. So we'll talk about those as well. I believe there's 9 graphics that we're going to talk about. So some of them are just games, some of them are tournaments. We'll talk about those. And we are going to do these top 50 non-conference games in chronological order. So just, what led into putting the top 50 games, like there might be some where you're like, yeah, is that really on there? I tried to spread it out over as many days as possible. So like, for example, December 6th, December 20th, December 16th or 13th, just has a loaded slate of college hoops. So, I tried to keep those days to like 5 or 6 games, then add in some other days that, you might find yourself on a Thursday or Friday night, and we'll be able to enjoy some quality college basketball games. So if it's not like a top 6, top 7 game on that day, I didn't include it, and just tried to get in as many teams as possible as well. So at least, just going non-conference games, it's basically going to be based off of big brands. So I tried to get the biggest brands on here. Couple are just gauntlets of schedule, which we'll talk about. And should be a lot of fun. So let's dive right into it. But before we do, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We are diving deep into the college basketball landscape right now. Next week is going to be our official bracket prediction for 2026, the March Madness tournament. It's my favorite show of the preseason by far. I label out 1 through 68 and actually put a bracket together of what I see by the end of the year. The preseason rankings, which we did 2 shows ago, so go check that out if you haven't seen it. That's going into the season. The tournament prediction is where I see them at the end of the season. So that's always a fun show. Will raise a ton of controversy. People will hate me. People will love it. So we'll see. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, where we're posting all of these graphics and more at Bracket Science with 2 S's. And be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, where, if you're on the go, don't want to see this ugly face, you can just listen to the podcast as well, although it is much better seeing a visual with the graphics. All right, let's dive right into it. And we're going to start on opening night of college hoops. The 3rd of November, opening night. You can see I even have I got the KenPom betting lines out already. I put them for every single game. Now, I will say, before anyone gets mad at me, I am sure I messed something up on here. There were so many numbers flying all over the place. Rankings in the AP poll, I put all the rankings down, plus, the KenPom rankings where the KenPom numbers are next to their name when I was looking at the KenPom betting lines, and the dates are, changing like crazy. So I'm sure I missed something here. So keep that in mind. I'll be amazed if I didn't. But without further ado, on opening night, number 3 Florida in the preseason takes on number 13 Arizona. This game will be played in Vegas. If you see an asterisk next to the date, that means it is a neutral site game. So this game will be played in Las Vegas. Florida favored by 5 in the opening night. I might even give a few predictions. I don't think this will be a 5-point spread. I think it'll probably be more like 2.5, 3.5. If it was a 5-point spread, I would 100% take Arizona. In fact, mark me down for Arizona to win this game. I wouldn't be surprised if Tommy Lloyd and Arizona climb up into the top 5 at one point, just with this gauntlet of a schedule that they have and with the returning pieces that they have. Don't be surprised if Arizona is a real threat come Big 12 play at the top of the AP poll. All right, I won't talk that much about every single game because we have a lot of games to talk about. On the 4th, the second day of the season, Texas goes and takes on Duke in Charlotte. So it's in North Carolina, a little bit of an advantage for Duke. Duke favored by 7 in that game. We'll see what Texas can be this year under Sean Miller. Duke, this will be good time to put the Boozer twins on the main stage. On the 7th, Kansas heads to North Carolina at the down there in, it's not a neutral site game. It is at the University of North Carolina, where North Carolina favored by 2 at home over the Jayhawks. That should be a lot of fun. Hubert Davis. We'll see Darren Peterson on the main stage. Going to be a great one. On the 8th at Madison Square Garden, Alabama takes on St. John's, number 15 team in the country. Alabama taking on number 5 St. John's. We'll get a big glimpse into what St. John's is going to be this year. We know Alabama's offense is going to be prolific. We'll see if St. John's can really put all, the iffy fits together this early in the season against the Nate Oates coach team. St. John's favored by 6 right now at KenPom. On the 8th as well, so big night for college hoops. Number 14, Arkansas and John Calipari go to East Lansing to take on number 22, Michigan State. Michigan State favored by 2. Shout out to both Tom Izzo and John Calipari. They are both playing a very tough non-conference schedule, so good for both of them, and they're getting it started early in the season. Michigan State favored in that one. On the 9th, unranked matchup, but 2 very big brands, 2 teams that have been really good. And it's going to be a standalone, really high level game on the 9th. This game will take place in Chicago, so near Marquette's campus, but Indiana, the Hoosiers under Darian DeVries will take on Marquette without Cam Jones and Tyler Kolek this year. And Oso Ighodaro 2 years ago. Same with Kolek, I guess. But game in Chicago, a little bit of an advantage to Marquette. We'll see what Indiana can be with all the transfers. Will Tucker DeVries be, all the way back to himself after dealing with the injuries? We'll see. He supposedly feels great. 2 big brands. This will be, a high-level matchup early in the season. An even higher level matchup on the 11th of November. This is weird to see on Veterans Day. Number 9, Kentucky travels to the KFC Yum Center to take on number 11, Louisville. This game is usually played much later in the season. It is playing earlier, even before Kentucky plays Louisville in football. So interesting there, but 2 top 11 teams, 2 tremendous offensive coaches, 2 teams with great talent this year, national championship aspirations for both of them. Kentucky is favored by 1 on the road. I'm not sure that's what the line will be. I think Louisville will probably be favored at home, but I am very, very high on both of these squads, specifically even more so on Kentucky, but can see getting there with Louisville as well. All right, let's move on to the next graphic. Also on the 11th, so you got Louisville, Kentucky, also number 10, Texas Tech traveling to Illinois in a very high level, analytically charged game for Grant McCasland and Coach Brad Underwood. Brad Underwood's team is 6th at KenPom in the preseason, although they're number 17 in the AP poll. So that's leaning towards Illinois giving 5 points in this game. This will not be that high of a spread. It'll probably be 1, 2, maybe 3. This is going to be a lot of fun because 2 teams that I think are underrated. Texas Tech's top 10, so maybe not really underrated, but 2 teams that I think could really make deep runs and be, Final Four contenders in this upcoming season. Going to be a lot of fun to see what those foreign recruits can do from Illinois, see if they can stop JT Toppin, who is a Player of the Year candidate. Speaking of Player of the Year candidates, on the 13th of November, number 1 Purdue, number 1 team in the country, and Braden Smith, the favorite to win the Wooden Award this upcoming season, travel to Alabama, true road game. This might be we'll see what Purdue is going to be on defense, but this could be a very high scoring basketball game. First one to 90 wins, maybe first one to 100 wins. Purdue, without a doubt, has the highest expectations in probably just in general, but also in offense going into the season. And Nate Oates might be the best offensive coach in the entire country. So LeBaron Philon taking on Braden Smith, going to be a lot of fun there. Purdue favored by 2 in that game, putting them on the main stage. Love to see it. We'll see what Alabama can be. On the 14th of November, a neutral site game that will take place in Inglewood, California. So giving UCLA a little bit of an advantage. Number 12, UCLA, and number 13, Arizona, 2 teams that I think are also sneaky, not just Final Four good, but national champion good. If either one of these teams, reaches number 1, number 2, number 3 in the AP poll, I would not be surprised at all. We'll get to see Donovan Dent on the main stage, guarded by Jaden Bradley, one of the better defenders in our sport. UCLA is favored by 2 in that game. I can't wait for that game. That's one of the, games I'm really excited to see, because these are going to be 2 teams where when the seeding comes out in March, when the seeding comes out in March and you're filling out your bracket and you're wondering, I don't want to pick all 1 seeds, even though all 1 seeds made the Final Four last year. I don't want to pick all 1 seeds. Who's a 3 seed or so that I can take to the Final Four? These are 2 teams that are going to be staring you dead at the face. I'm confident these teams are going to both be very solid this upcoming season. Now, the day after, on the 15th, so just see, I mean, we got the 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19. There is a ton of days where it's going to be college hoop. And I love this during football season when, not much is happening on Wednesday nights or Tuesday nights. I love to see college basketball get in that national landscape. And this is the game that will probably be, it's one of the most anticipated games in all of the non-conference slate. Number 8, BYU, and AJ Dybantsa goes to Boston to play number 4, UConn. So AJ Dybantsa is from Boston. He's going back to Boston. UConn favored by 6. UConn will without a doubt have a big crowd there. This will get, Dan Hurley, most notable coach on the biggest stage, and AJ Dybantsa, a highly rated freshman, number 1 by a lot of people in Boston, in his hometown. This is going to be such a fun game. Can't wait to see that one. On the 16th, a neutral site game in Birmingham, Alabama. So Auburn, also obviously in Alabama, near their campus. So semi-away game for number 2, Houston, traveling to number 20, Auburn, in the main stage with Stephen Pearl. Remember last year, this was the game where Auburn went to, I believe it was in Houston. It obviously wasn't at University of Houston. It was maybe in downtown Houston where the Rockets play. But that was a game where Ja'Kai Howard, most notably, and some of the Auburn players got into in a fight on the plane, and it just kind of spurred out of control. And anyways, Auburn ends up going to Houston, wins the game, and then it was like, all right, Auburn's for real. Obviously, we know what happened. Number 1 overall seed, make the Final Four. Auburn's going to be in a little bit tougher of a situation this year, losing, a lot of pieces, plus losing their head coach, turning it over to his son, Stephen Pearl. So I expect Houston to win this game in kind of a rebound game. 6 points is what they are favored in right now. Next up on the 19th, let's jump to the 19th. Number 15, Alabama, taking on number 17, Illinois. This game will be taking place in Chicago, so semi-away game for Alabama, playing it in the state of Illinois. Illinois favored by 6 in this one. Could be another game where, I know we say this every year for Alabama, and usually in the SEC with Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, and Florida, most notably the past couple of years, with those high-level offenses. It's going to be another just incredible high-scoring game here against Illinois, who might have one of the best offenses in the country. So that should be a lot of fun. Favored by 6, I would take Alabama plus 6 if that is the case, but who knows? We'll see just how good this Illinois team can be. On the 19th, number 13, Arizona travels to Stores to take on number 4, UConn. You'll notice, shout out Tommy Lloyd again, just what a gauntlet of a schedule he put together. My goodness, I love when coaches do this. These coaches are buying into it. Obviously, Dan Hurley, the same. This is a couple times we've mentioned Dan Hurley. Obviously, Nate Oates and Jon Scheyer have made a living doing this, as with Brad Underwood. So shout out Tommy Lloyd as well, willing to play anyone, anytime. UConn favored by 7 in this game. That should be a lot of fun. 2 teams, like I said, don't sleep on Arizona this year. This could be a team, if it all meshes, if the freshmen are as good as we think, could be a national championship competitor. All right, let's keep it going. On the 21st, Wisconsin heads to BYU, I believe. I have it marked down as it's at BYU. See, I knew I was going to mess up somewhere at BYU, but I have an asterisk here. Have to take a look at that one, but they take on BYU. BYU is favored by 3 in this game. Wisconsin, number 24 in the country. Another team that I think, they're getting ranked, anywhere from, I've seen them like 6th to like 10th in the Big Ten. I think they're going to be better than that. I'll be shocked if Wisconsin is worse than like a 5 or 6 seed this year. That's what I'll say about Greg Gard. That's how highly I think of Greg Gard. John Blackwell, they bring in Nick Boyd, Nolan Winters back. I like this Wisconsin team. It's going to be a lot of fun seeing them take on BYU, who will be led by, AJ Dybantsa, Rob Wright, Richie Saunders, Kiba Kita. Going to be a lot of fun. On the 27th, this is, I believe this is Thanksgiving this year. Yeah, it is. It is Thanksgiving. Number 14, Arkansas takes on number 6, Duke. This game will take place in Chicago. Jon Scheyer from Chicago, so going back there. Duke is favored by 4 in this game. 2 of the highest, just individual talent on the roster in the entire country. John Calipari, Jon Scheyer, going to be a high-level matchup. Can't wait to see that one. Also on the 27th, Michigan State takes on North Carolina. This game is part of the Fort Myers tip-off. I didn't include that as a an MTE. It's just kind of games and they're just playing each other. I probably should have, because you're going to find in this, hopefully no one was really going to notice, I put down 51 games. I counted wrong. And then as I was doing the math, it's like 7 per graphic. I have 7 graphics, but 2 of them have 8. I'm like, that ended up being 51. So include this if you want, but could be in the Fort Myers tip-off. It will be played in Fort Myers, where Michigan State is favored by 2. North Carolina has a much more talented roster than Michigan State this year, in my opinion, and by most people's opinions. But yeah, Michigan State is definitely on the higher end on the coaching side there and the continuity side. So we'll see how much those mean, but 2 blue blood programs playing each other. On the 28th, this game will take place in Madison Square Garden. Number 17 Illinois takes on number 4 UConn. Mentioning UConn again, just a gauntlet of a schedule. UConn favored by 3. We know they travel well to Madison Square Garden, so sort of a semi-away game for Illinois. Moving into December on the 2nd, one of the most anticipated games of the college basketball season. This is going to be a lot of fun. These next 3 on this list is, look at December 2nd. How about that? Going to be a heck of a day. Number 3 Florida goes to number 6 Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Duke favored by 1 in this game. We saw what Duke did last year to Auburn when Auburn was blazing hot and Duke ended up beating them. We'll see if they can do the same thing with Florida. Going to be a lot of fun. Battle of the bigs there. Patrick Gongba, Cam Boozer taking on, the quadruplets of Florida big men, Handlocked and Chinyelu, Hauk and Alex Condon. Going to be a tremendous matchup there. On the 2nd as well, number 4 UConn goes to Allen Fieldhouse. UConn actually favored by 1 on the road in that game. That will not be the line. Kansas will most likely be favored in that game unless, Kansas loses that game badly to North Carolina earlier in the year, and UConn's like number 1 in the country at this point. Not many teams are favored at Kansas. Remember a couple years ago, UConn played at Kansas when I believe UConn was, I don't think they were number 1 in the AP poll, but they might have been number 1 at KenPom at that point. And Kansas did end up getting the better of them at home. Now UConn was without my goodness, Stephon Castle. Was without Stephon Castle, and Kansas won the game. But rematch there at Allen Fieldhouse, going to be a lot of fun. Also on the 2nd, 2 more blue blood programs. How about this? 6 blue blood programs on this, like in the last 3 graphics here. Pretty fun there. Number 25, North Carolina goes to number 9, Kentucky. Kentucky favored by 11 in this game. This is our first double-digit spread according to KenPom that we'll talk about. That just kind of shows what KenPom thinks of this North Carolina team this upcoming season and how good Kentucky is at home at Rupp. So without a doubt, going to be one of the better games of the non-conference season, though, with 2 blue blood programs. North Carolina and Kentucky always lives up to the hype. So I'm so glad to see Hubert Davis and Mark Pope, getting a home and home together. This game will be played at Rupp. All right, let's keep it going. Number 11, Louisville travels to number 14, Arkansas on the 3rd of December. John Calipari's Arkansas team favored by 1 in that game. This could really be a game of like, what? This could be a game that comes down to like, how good can these teams be? If Louisville goes and beats Arkansas by 10 at Bud Walton, we're like, okay, Louisville, going to be filled in a lot of Final Four brackets come March. Arkansas, we'll see what they can be. A little bit of an unknown, a ton of talent, but yeah, I'm in on Arkansas. I know some people aren't, just with how they started last year, but they finished strong. I think they're going to be good, but kind of just a wait and see approach on how this game goes. On the 3rd, North Carolina State goes to number 20 Auburn. This was a game, I think this was like the 50, I guess it ended up being the 51st game that I put on here because I was like, I wanted to give Will Wade and NC State some love because I think this team's going to be good. I really think they're going to be good. Number 20 Auburn's favored at home by 5. Give me a bold prediction in this one. NC State goes to Auburn and wins this game, and then NC State is put on the national landscape, getting ranked for the first time. I think I'm kind of in on this Will Wade team. Trey Holloman, Darian Williams, going to be a lot of fun. On the 5th, in a neutral site game, this game will take place in Seattle. Number 9, Kentucky goes to number 21, Gonzaga up in Seattle, as mentioned. This has been a couple back and forth. Remember last year, Gonzaga played Kentucky at Rupp in a was that last year or 2 years ago? It was one of the 2 years where they needed a quad 1 win desperately bad. They were like on the bubble. They went and got that win. I believe it was 2 years ago. I can't remember, but yeah, so a little bit of a rematch game here. I believe they played last year as well. Can't remember the result. I believe Kentucky got them. Yeah, but this is going to be a very fun game. I'm a little bit higher on Gonzaga than most people, and obviously Kentucky is going to be a ton of fun to watch this year. But they're favored by 4 in Seattle. Give me Gonzaga +4 in that one. Also on the 5th, Cincinnati taking on Xavier in the crosstown shootout. This game will be played at Xavier. This is a game that I recommend all college basketball fans watch. I know it's 2 unranked teams, but it is one of the best rivalries in all of college basketball. Cincinnati should be a tournament team this year. There's no reason this team should not be in the NCAA tournament. Xavier should not be a tournament team this year, quite frankly. Not a lot of talent, seem to be struggling in the money aspect over there, but it's going to be electric at Xavier. Cincinnati favored by 1. I think Cincinnati's going to win the game. They won it last year. However, anything can happen in the crosstown shootout. Going to be a lot of fun. All right, on the 6th, the day after, number 6 Duke goes to number 22 Michigan State. So we've seen a lot of times where Duke plays Michigan State in the Champions Classic. This is not the Champions Classic. This is just a home and home series because they were owed a travel during COVID. Once the Champions Classic didn't happen, they ended up playing it on campus. They went to Michigan State, went to Duke. Now this is the return game for that. So number 6 Duke will go to Michigan State. Duke is favored by 1 in that game. Going to be a lot of fun. On the 6th as well. So the 6th, as I mentioned earlier, it is a loaded day for hoops. Number 20 Auburn goes to number 13 Arizona. Notice we're mentioning Auburn a lot. Gauntlet of a schedule. Big brand, gauntlet of a schedule. Love to see it. Arizona favored by 6 in that game at home. On the 6th as well, at a neutral site where the game will be played in Knoxville. So really pretty much a home game for Tennessee, which is why they're favored by 1. They're not as highly ranked in the AP poll or at KenPom. They're favored at 1 because the game's going to take place in Knoxville. As I've mentioned before, for people who are following, I love Tennessee this year. I think they're underrated going into this year. Now I will admit it's going to depend on what Nate Ament is going to be for this Tennessee team, how they're going to score the ball. But I trust Rick Barnes. I think this team could be, really good as they've been the past 2 years. And Illinois, like I said, I'm very high on this team. So I'm curious to see who wins the battle of these orange squads. Tennessee only a 1-point favor in that game. All right, moving on to the next graphic, continuing on the 6th. As you can see, there's just so many games I had to include. Number 16, Iowa State heads to number 1 Purdue in a true home game for Purdue. They're favored by 7 in that game. Hopefully, Tamin Lipsey is back and, just rolling with Iowa State so we can get a really good matchup here. Tamin Lipsey guarding Braden Smith. Sign me up for that 100% of the time. Also on the 6th, Marquette goes to number 24 Wisconsin, a huge rivalry game up in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is favored by 7 at home in this game. I like Wisconsin better than Marquette, as does the AP poll, as does KenPom this year. But Marquette could be sneaky good. Marquette's made the tournament every year under Shaka Smart. I think they're going to do it again this year. However, I'm a lot higher on Wisconsin, so we'll see what they can do. On the 6th as well, in a neutral site game, number 11, Louisville takes on Indiana. This game will be played in Indianapolis, but obviously not on campus. Louisville played Indiana last year in, I believe, that was a battle for Atlantis, right? Where Louisville just beat the brakes off them. And it was like, yep, Pat Kelsey's a little bit better of a basketball coach than Mike Woodson was. Now I like these 2 coaching matchups. Pat Kelsey versus Darian DeVries. Louisville's got a more talented roster, but Indiana could be sneaky good as well. Don't be surprised if Indiana ends up in the top 25 at some point in the AP poll this year. Lamar Wilkerson has a lot of hype going into this season. Obviously, Tucker DeVries. They Reed Bailey from Davidson. So we'll see what those mid-major guys can do. But it's Indiana. They're going to be good. They're going to have, a ton of fans everywhere. So exciting to see some change for both of these programs after what has happened, the past couple of years. And then also on the 6th, had to include Ole Miss because I think Ole Miss is going to be really good this year as well. A little bit underrated every single year, it seems, under Chris Beard. Chris Beard, one of the, I believe there was some vote somewhere at CBS a couple years ago where like Chris Beard they were like, who runs the best practice? And they were like, Chris Beard, because he's a good basketball coach. Think what you want of him personally, but he's a really good basketball coach. And we know Rick Pitino is a good basketball coach, so I'm really excited to see this coaching matchup. SEC versus Big East. St. John's favored by 5 in this game. On the 7th, the day after, number 23 Creighton goes to Nebraska. Nebraska's favored by 1 in this game, a huge rivalry in the state of Nebraska here. Creighton ranked in the preseason. Surprisingly, Nebraska Not ranked, not surprising, but I think Nebraska is going to be sneaky good this year. Rank Mast is going to be back from injury. We'll see how, sharp and healthy and just ready to go he is. With the offense running through him with shooters around him, Connor Essegian most notably, I think Nebraska's a tournament team this year. I think they got a good chance to sneak into the tournament this year, a little bit under the radar. We'll see. We'll see how healthy Creighton is at this point with Owen Freeman. Going to be a good game. Can't wait to watch that one. Big time rivalry game. On the 7th as well, another huge rivalry game. This game will be taking place in Kansas City, which we know Kansas City's in Missouri, but Kansas is playing against Missouri. A lot of confusion there. Kansas only favored by 1 in this game against Missouri. Missouri has high expectations this year. Kansas, Darren Peterson, main stage, sign me up. On the 9th, this is probably my favorite non-con game of the entire season. On the 9th, this game will take place at Madison Square Garden. UConn, the number 4 team in the preseason, takes on number 3 Florida. The two teams, they've won 3 of the last 3 national championships. Florida won last year. UConn won the previous 2 years. The only 2 teams since a Duke team, I believe, I can't even remember the stat, but that have gone back-to-back and won national championships. Florida in 06-07, UConn in 23-24, playing each other in the world's most famous arena at Madison Square Garden. That is going to be a ton of fun. We'll really get to know what each team are going into their respective conference play. Next up, on the 11th of December, another rivalry game, Iowa and Ben McCollum. Here we go. Ben McCollum, what can he do? Travels to Hilton to take on number 16, Iowa State. Iowa State favored by 9 in this game. If you're going to give me Ben McCollum plus 9 in any game, I'm going to take it. TJ Otzelberger, a tremendous coach in his own mind. He has built that brand up to where it's like a top dog. It's a really good program. Tamin Lipsey, Bennett Sturts, a lot of shooting on this Iowa team. We'll see just how good defensively Iowa State's going to be. I'm sure Iowa's going to slow them down. It's going to be a lot of fun. Big time rivalry game. On the 12th, Texas takes on UConn, number 4 team in the country. This game, it takes place in Stores. This would probably have been like my 48th or 49th ranked game. Threw it on here, needed to get to 50. UConn favored by 11 in this game. We'll see what Texas can be because Texas has a lot of talent, but will they piece it together? We'll see. On the 13th, a game taking place in Birmingham. So Alabama, a little bit of a semi-home game there. Number 15, Alabama taking on number 13, Arizona. Arizona favored by 1 in that game. That's going to be a lot of fun. 2 very underrated teams. On the 13th as well. So look at all these games on the 13th. My goodness. A wonderful day. You saw the 6th, you saw the 13th, you'll see the 20th. Saturdays in December are made for college hoops. I know a lot of people are going to have a lot of thoughts around football, but it's going to be college hoops coming in fast as well. Marquette travels to Purdue, number 1 team in the country. Purdue favored by 12 in that game. On the 13th as well, Indiana travels to number 9 Kentucky. Kentucky favored by 11 in that game. 2 premier brands with a ton of history. On the 13th as well, this game will take place in Dallas, so a little bit of an advantage for Texas Tech as number 10 Texas Tech takes on number 14 Arkansas. A rematch of last year's Sweet 16 game where Arkansas led, and then Texas Tech and Grant McCasland came all the way back and beat them. Texas Tech favored by 3 in that game. On the 13th as well, this game will take place in Seattle. So Gonzaga playing a couple games in Seattle this upcoming season. Number 12 UCLA taking on number 21 Gonzaga. Gonzaga favored by 1 in that one. Also on the 13th, a true road game for number 19 Kansas going to North Carolina State. And Will Wade in the squad, favored by 1. Can't wait to see that. They're bringing in maybe the biggest brand in all of college basketball, at least top 3 at worst, coming to North Carolina State, and North Carolina State's favored as of now. It is a new era in NC State. Can't wait to watch that game. And last but not least, the last sheet of our notable non-con games before we dive into the MTEs. Number 11 Louisville travels to number 18 Tennessee. Remember, this was supposed to be the first big game for Louisville under Pat Kelsey last year, where they were starting to get some hype. Tennessee went there and just beat the brakes off them. It was bad, and then Louisville obviously got a lot better as the year went on. But this is that return game where Louisville goes to Tennessee. Tennessee favored by 4. On the 20th, so look at that 20th slate, very good as well. This game will take place in Newark. Weird place for, there must be some sort of event that I missed, but game's taking place in Newark for number 14 Arkansas and number 2 Houston. Houston is favored by 8 in that game. Also on the 20th, this game will take place at Madison Square Garden. JT Toppin and number 10 Texas Tech take on Cam Boozer and number 6 Duke. That is going to be a tremendous matchup. Duke favored by 1 in that game. On the 20th, the game that will take place in Indianapolis, so a little bit of a semi-away game for number 20 Auburn going to number 1 Purdue, where Purdue's favored by 8 in that matchup. Number 13 Arizona. My goodness, Arizona. Give me Arizona and probably UConn as the 2. And I mean, you can't leave anyone out. Arkansas, Duke, just these teams that are just putting together gauntlets. I love to see it. Number 13, Arizona takes on San Diego State. Arizona's favored by 5 in this game. This game will take place in Phoenix, so on the West Coast. Going to be a lot of fun there. Phoenix, Arizona. San Diego State, count me on it right now. They're going to be ranked by this time. I think San Diego State's going to be really good this year. On the 21st, another West Coast matchup here. Number 21, Gonzaga takes on Oregon. This game will take place in Portland, so a little bit of an advantage there for Oregon. Gonzaga favored by 3 in that matchup. And then let's fast forward all the way to February, where number 11 Louisville will take on Baylor. The game will take place in Fort Worth, so real close to Baylor, but big advantage for them, which is why they're favored by 1 in this game. And they're highly thought of by the computers. Kind of interesting that KenPom has Baylor so high. Kind of an unknown. We'll see what they can be. But Baylor favored by 1 in that game. And then on the 21st, a week later, another random non-conference game just to break up, their ACC and their Big 10 / and Big 12 for Baylor, break up their schedules and just kind of, get a little breather. And well, I guess not a breather for these teams playing against each other, but yeah, just a little break in their respective conference plays. This game will be taking place in DC. Number 6 Duke takes on number 7 Michigan. Duke is favored by 1 in that game. Another game later in the Ohio State's playing Virginia. I wanted to get it on here, but I thought I was at 50. I was actually at 51. Wanted to get them on here as a later game, but Ohio State, big brand. Virginia should be much better this year, but couldn't quite get them on here, but give some respect to them as well. All righty, that'll do it for our just regular non-conference games. Now let's dive into the mid-season tournaments. These are going to be in chronological order for the best I believe I could do. I believe they're in chronological order. Starting with the Champions Classic on November 18th in Madison Square Garden, an incredible tradition where this year we'll see Kansas versus Duke in Kentucky. Sorry, Kentucky versus Michigan State. Kansas Duke will be the late night game, the headline game, and then Kentucky versus Michigan State going to be a tremendous game in their own right. Should be a lot of fun. Love the Champions Classic. Love that it has continued to just be awesome every season. Remember last year, people were saying the Champions Classic, they're like, we got to get rid of Michigan State because Michigan State, was it last year they played Kansas, and it might have been 2 years ago, but where they got beat and it was like it was just ugly. And then Michigan State went, dominated the Big Ten last year, went to the Elite Eight. It was a really good basketball program. Michigan State should not go anywhere. Tom Izzo's awesome, going to be a lot of fun. All right, it's kind of going to be all over the place, so stick with me here. Purdue will take on Memphis in the Baha Mar in the first round. Purdue versus Memphis is. I kind of think Matt Painter will just coach circles around Penny Hardaway. Memphis doesn't have a lot of expectations coming in this year, rather bleak roster. Maybe that's by design. We'll see. But the reason this is going to be a big one, because Texas Tech plays Wake Forest. I expect Texas Tech to win that game. So we could see Purdue versus Texas Tech, which would be awesome. Last year in the Baha Mar was a great field as well. We had St. John's, we had Baylor, we had Tennessee. Remember Jeremy Roach hit that huge 3 late, I believe it was against St. John's, which set up a game against Tennessee, and then Tennessee just blew out Baylor, and it was like, whoa, Tennessee's for real. So the Baha Mar continues to, I love this little just mini 4-team tournament with 4 really good brands. Hope it's Purdue, Texas Tech, just for the sake of, rankings, I guess. But yeah, should be a lot of fun. We'll see what Steve Forbes and Wake Forest can do. We'll see what Penny Hardaway and Memphis can do. All right, now the best MTE we have this year, and even going to get better next year, is the Players Era Festival. So this is the first round. I mean, obviously it expanded last year. It was, 8 teams last year. I went to the Players Era Festival and I can't even remember. I believe it was 8 teams last year. Obviously, Oregon ended up winning the championship in the first ever. So they've added a lot more teams this year. So let's talk about the games on the 24th. This year we will have a start at, sorry, this graphic's a little bit small. I should have prepared a little better. It's at 1:00 Eastern time. Rutgers will take on Tennessee. Rutgers, I believe, is going to be awful this year, quite frankly, but maybe it's a blessing in disguise losing the 2 freshmen. I mean, obviously they're really good, but had a lot of hype last year, just didn't fit. We'll see what they can do, but roster looks rough. Tennessee should win that game. Creighton will take on Baylor. That's a nice matchup there. Kansas will play Notre Dame. St. John's will play Iowa State. That is one I'm highlighting right there. That's going to be a lot of fun. Houston will take on Syracuse. Speaking of coaching circles around each other, watch Kelvin Sampson just coach circles around Coach Adrian Autry over there. But Syracuse has a ton of talent this year. We'll see if they can, kind of get on the landscape by keeping it close with Kelvin Sampson's Houston Cougars. Auburn will take on Oregon. That's a really fun matchup. Gonzaga versus Alabama. Whew, speaking of first to 90, as we mention all the time with Alabama, going to be fun there. Michigan versus San Diego State. 2 very highly thought of teams, at least in my opinion, this upcoming year. Then the last one's just kind of UNLV versus Maryland. No disrespect to those programs. I'm intrigued by both of these teams. I think Maryland and Buzz Williams going to be better than you think this upcoming year. And UNLV should be much better this year. They have a really talented roster under Josh Pastner, but that's kind of just you can tell that's just the game where they're like, yeah, we'll throw it at midnight, But yeah, great first day. Let's talk about the second day of the Players Era Festival. That's on November 24th. This is November 25th. Rutgers will play Notre Dame. Yeah. Kind of another just throwaway game. Notre Dame should be better this year, but we said that last year about Notre Dame. And last year, Notre Dame played Rutgers in the Players Era Festival. A lot of people might have kind of forgot about that. It was a really good game. I believe it went into double overtime, maybe triple overtime. Really good game between 2 teams that were not near the bubble conversation, but at one point they were thought that they were going to be in the tournament. Yeah, so they're playing each other, opening to open the second day of the Players Era Festival. Iowa State plays Creighton. That should be a fun matchup. Kansas plays Syracuse. Now, I want to talk about this because Kansas plays Syracuse, and going back to the other graphic, they play Notre Dame. So we'll talk about what that means. A pretty easy draw for Kansas in this sense. So we'll talk about that here in a second. St. John's plays Baylor. Remember, we talked about that crazy finish in the Baja Mar last year. That'll be a great matchup and the best game of the Players Era Festival, in my opinion. And until we see, what the championship game will be. And I'll talk about those guidelines in a second. Houston versus Tennessee, battle of the Elite 8 last year. Just 2 amazing defensive teams. We'll see how well they score the ball, both teams this upcoming season. But, oh, man, I can't wait to watch this game. Rick Barnes, Kelvin Sampson, going to be a lot of fun. Michigan will play Auburn as well. Gonzaga will take on Maryland right after that. And then Oregon versus San Diego State, which I believe was the championship game last year of the Players Era Fest, or was it Oregon either beat San Diego State or Oregon beat Alabama? Again, I was there and I can't even remember what happened. That's how long the college basketball season is, and how you get so excited about it, and then after a couple days it's gone, and then you just kind of label it as a resume. But Oregon, defending champs, we'll see what they can do against San Diego State, and then UNLV versus Alabama in the late night game. So talking about there will be a third day with consolation games. There'll be third place game, a championship game all the way down. It's based off of, so you're going to have to go 2-0 with all these teams. I mean, most likely. No, I would be shocked if everyone goes 1-1. In fact, I don't even know if that's the possibility, but so you're probably going to have to go 2-0. And then if there's, say 4 teams that go 2-0, it's going to be based off of the win differential, which is why it's so important that Kansas plays Syracuse and Notre Dame, that they, going off of rankings, they should probably have the easiest draw in terms of beating teams kind of badly. So it's a little bit unlucky for like Houston or Tennessee, who has to play each other. Kansas got a great draw in this scenario, in my opinion. So give me I'll take Kansas to reach the championship game in the Players Era Festival, playing, someone, maybe Michigan, maybe, Alabama gets to play UNLV in that late night game. Who'd they play the first game? I already can't even remember. Alabama gets Gonzaga that first game, though. So if Alabama can beat Gonzaga and then run up the score against UNLV, we'll see. Going to be a lot of fun, though. The Players Era Festival is here to stay, so it seems for now. So the cost of having such a good field in the Players Era Festival is at the expense of the Maui Invitational. As you can see, not as great of a field. In fact, last year might have been the best Maui field we've ever seen, and then this year, yikes, looks a little bleak. Seton Hall will play NC State. NC State should have no problem with Seton Hall, and then USC will play Boise State. I like that matchup. I think that's a fun matchup. Two teams that I think should be on the bubble, maybe even clear. You know, if USC can really put it together. I know they've had some injury problems, but really get good, be on the right side of the bubble, and down the stretch could be fun. Then we have Washington State taking on Chaminade. Yeah, every other year Chaminade's in there, so I'm glad they host a tournament, but yeah, just kind of a throw-out game. Washington State should move on. How did Washington State draw them? They might, they're the only, I don't know, weird scheduling. Then Arizona State, in what I presume to be the last year under Coach Hurley there, will take on Texas. I think Texas should beat them. I think we'll end up seeing a Texas versus North Carolina State championship game. Give me North Carolina State to bring it home. Wouldn't be surprised if it was USC or Boise State, though. But I think NC State's going to be my team to beat. And next up is the Battle for Atlantis. So the Battle for Atlantis is also really struggling based on the the Players Era Festival. A lot of teams going there. I should mention Players Era Festival, Maui, Battle for Atlantis. All of these are all over Feast Week, over Thanksgiving week. So yeah, that's the dates for it. Western Kentucky will play Vanderbilt, a Vanderbilt team that I think will get in the top 25 at one, maybe for a while this year. I think they're going to be good. VCU plays USF, two teams. VCU, I believe, outside of someone would have to fact check me, outside of Gonzaga, San Diego State, and maybe the Mountain West schools. Let's say other than the WCC Mountain West schools and Memphis. I believe VCU is the highest ranked mid-major in the country, coming out of the A10. So should be a lot of fun under Phil Martelli Jr. taking on USF under Bryant and Hodgson, who I'm really high of. KenPom not really high on, 104th in KenPom's preseason rankings, but I think USF is going to be a really good basketball team this year. So that could be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see, hopefully, Vanderbilt play one of these two teams, VCU or USF. Be a quality mid-major game. Colorado State will play Virginia Tech under Coach Faroknamesh and Coach Mike Young. I think Virginia Tech's going to be better than people think this year. Give me Virginia Tech to win that game. No surprise there. And then St. Mary's will take on Wichita State. We should see St. Mary's move on, which could lead to a somewhat interesting, Final Four in the Battle for Atlantis. Hopefully Vanderbilt plus VCU or USF, and then Virginia Tech versus St. Mary's. Pretty decent brands there. So any one of those outcomes could be a lot of fun down the stretch. Battle for Atlantis. I like what they're doing, leaning into some highly thought of mid-majors. I really like Western Kentucky too. They struggled a little bit last year, but they've been a great program. So we'll see what they can do. All right, next up on November 27th, we have the Rady Children's Invitational, just tip times. So Florida will play TCU, and then Wisconsin will play Providence. I believe the winners play each other, which will mean that, hopefully we see Wisconsin versus Florida, because that definitely would have made the list of top teams. But TCU, great. Well, very well coached under Jamie Dixon, and Providence has a ton of talent. However, like Greg Garden, Wisconsin a little better. Hopefully we see Wisconsin versus Florida for a really high-level matchup. All right, and then talking about the ESPN Events Invitational, BYU and AJ Dybantsa take on Miami in first year under Jay Lucas. And then Georgetown, who should be much improved this year, will take on Anthony Grant in Dayton to set up a championship game between the winner of these two. This will also be on the 27th and 28th of November. And maybe saving the best for last, December 20th, the CBS Sports Classic. North Carolina will take on Ohio State in what I presume to be the opening game, and then what might be the best non-conference game in all of college basketball. Kentucky takes on St. John's. Mark Pope played for Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino at Kentucky. Rick Pitino was obviously a legendary coach at Kentucky, left to leave coach rival Louisville, he went to the NBA for a stint, then came back, coached Louisville. Now at St. John's, two top 10 teams. This is going to be exciting. This game will take place in Atlanta. It used to be North Carolina, Ohio State, Kentucky, and UCLA. UCLA dropped off because of, kind of the whole fit that Mick Cronin threw about going to the East Coast so much, which I can't say I blame him, but I think he was kind of like, I don't know, the way it kind of seemed to me was like, he's like, oh, well, stop making us come to the West or to the East Coast and we'll play anything. And then they replaced him with, what's going to end up being it's a top 5 team in the preseason and a legendary matchup between Kentucky and St. John. So kind of a win for the CBS Sports Classic in this one. This is always a fun event. These games will take place in Atlanta. There's no championship game. They just play each other. It's just a classic, and it is always a ton of fun. That's going to do it for the show today. I know that was a lot of talking, a lot of information thrown at you. Just some of the best, 51 best non-conference games. And some of the MTs, like I said, I'm sure I screwed up somewhere and you probably noticed it and I didn't even notice it. But yeah, it's going to be a great non-conference. I think it's going to be one of it's continuing to grow. These big brands, as we mentioned, we talked about Arizona a lot, and obviously, Arkansas and Duke and UConn, Gonzaga, leading into just scheduling. They know it doesn't hurt them that much because of these computer algorithms. If Florida loses to UConn, as just shown on this graphic, it's not that big a deal. You're expected to lose games throughout the entire season. So why not have a chance of picking up a huge win or not losing a ton if you lose the game? So yeah, exciting to see big MTEs this upcoming season, specifically the Players Era Festival. Going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully I didn't screw up too many things on there, as it was just a ton of information and a very time consuming. All right, before you head out, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the show. Remember, come back next week where it'll be a little more fun of an episode than this one. I know this one's just labeling a lot of just games to watch. Next week with the tournament prediction, I'll be going through 1 through 16 seeds. We're going to talk mid majors. We're going to talk low majors. We're going to talk first 4. Then I'll give my final 4 picks based off of that bracket that I come up with and spend the entire week just preparing. Remember, it's where I see the teams at the end of the year, not where I see them going into the season. So, don't be surprised if there's a couple teams where it's like I don't know. We'll explain it. Be sure to come back. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's, where we'll post all these fun graphics. Everyone have a great rest of their week. We'll talk to you again real soon. Ball is around the corner. Take care.